Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Good Boxing Podcast with your host, Josh Sias. I have another good episode for you guys today. As you know, yesterday, Canelo Alvarez engaged in battle against his number one contender of the WBC, Avni Yildirim. As I mentioned before in my breakdown, I knew this fight really wasn't going to be that competitive, and I really struggled to come up with a case for the straight up, very limited Avni Yildirim. From the get-go, Canelo Alvarez looked to set the tone. I even like the fact that when they went to go touch gloves, Canelo Alvarez was not having any of it. This wasn't a sparring match, and Canelo wanted to go out there and show that he is undoubtedly the pound-for-pound king. He wanted to set the tone in Florida and basically send a message to any of the doubters and anyone who's talking shit about the pound-for-pound king. He knows he had a big assignment coming up in May on the Cinco de Mayo weekend against a Mr. Billy Joe Saunders from the UK, and he did not want to waste any time with the man in front of him. From the get-go, you saw an authoritative jab. You saw a clear speed difference. You saw him attack the turtle shell, hands up, not even peekaboo because he didn't really move his head. Style of Avni Yildirim, he hit him with any punch he wanted. He went to the body, etc., etc. Before you know it, round 2 happened, and he gets dropped. And it looks like Canelo Alvarez is going to actually stop Avni Yildirim, right? Actually, the knockdown happened in the third round. But Avni Yildirim looked completely outmatched. He looked completely overwhelmed. And people were, especially the announcers, like, oh, it looks like he's not trying. Maybe he needs to revert back to his older style and stop trying to implement the new style that Joel Diaz was trying to implement. But I'm going to just be honest with you. The reason why Avni Yildirim wasn't able to throw, wasn't able to kind of sit there and open up and try to be his normal self was Canelo Alvarez didn't allow him. Anytime Avni tried something, Canelo Alvarez completely shut that door. He thought there was an opening. Canelo completely shut that door. There was maybe one punch that was clean from Avni Yildirim. He hit him with a nice little counter hook, but Canelo Alvarez almost looked annoyed and disappointed that he got hit, and he came back and gave it back tenfold. Every uppercut he wanted to throw landed. Any hook to the body he wanted to throw landed. The jab was landing. The hook was landing. It was just murder, she wrote, and Avni Yildirim was, quite frankly, just someone there to collect money because there was really nothing he could do. And Canelo Alvarez showed that. I'm really happy that Joel Diaz kind of stopped the slaughter. He knew that Yildirim was struggling. He knew that there was really not much he could do to mess with Canelo, and Canelo was hurting him badly. He was hitting him with a lot of good shots, and there was really nothing Avni could have done better. I know people were like, oh, you got to try, but if he tried, he would have been knocked out in the first or second round. The conservative nature and the conservative work rate was because he didn't expect Canelo to be that fast, right? Even though you spar with someone, even though you see them from time to time, once it comes fight time, it's a different level. Canelo wasn't fucking around, and I like that, honestly. When he dropped Avni Yildirim, I like the fact that Avni tried to touch gloves with him, which to me was a little strange. And he was just like, no, dude, this is a fight. This is me trying to destroy you. We become friends, and I'll show respect later. But he wasn't having it. So I'm happy to say that Canelo Alvarez took care of business. And then, of course, as you know, Eddie Hearn announced to the world about the upcoming fight with Canelo Alvarez and Billy Joe Saunders. The fight was pretty, honestly, one-sided is not even fair to say. A lot of people are going to say it was a cherry-pick fight, but it's not his fault that Yildirim is ranked number 1. Are there other fighters we want to see? Yeah, take it up with the WBC. At the end of the day, Canelo fights the mandatory to stay busy and stay sharp. I don't really see anything wrong with that if we're getting the fights we want to see next. If there was no deal with Billy Joe Saunders or potentially talks with Caleb Plant weren't really happening, then I would say, why is he fighting Avni Yildirim? You're just trying to cherry pick, and basically you're fighting guys just to stay busy with no plan. But he's fighting frequently. I don't think you guys know that back in the day, everyone didn't fight 8 killers in a row. They stayed busy. They fought on national television. They fought to stay busy and develop their craft. And I don't find anything really wrong with what Canelo's doing. He did exactly what we wanted him to do, get rid of somebody that clearly wasn't on the same level, and he just happened to be the WBC mandatory, right? No one was talking this when Triple G fought, I forgot who it was. I think it was Steve Graves. Was it Graves? Hold on one second. Dominic Wade, who was apparently ranked number 1 as a mandatory. Triple G destroyed him in the second or third round. Where was he's a cherry picker? Because for a while, Triple G's resume wasn't that solid, and you can't even compare what Canelo Alvarez has done in his last 6 fights to anything Triple G has done except for fight Canelo. So we got to keep everyone accountable. And look, when you're a mandatory, what's the point of ranking people if the rankings mean nothing? If the belts really mean nothing, why is everyone fighting? Is it for money? Okay, so how are we going to determine who's the best if there are no belts or merit system? Right? We basically live in a meritocracy. People like to make more money as they're ranked higher and have more experience. So sure, the belt system isn't perfect, but it's the system we have. So don't get mad at the guy for trying to unify the belts and then they say, hey, you got to fight your mandatory. He has to fight in order to keep the belt, in order to make the unification bout with Billy Joe Saunders and Caleb Plant happen. The fights get bigger when all the belts are on the line. There's never been an undisputed 168-pound champion, and Avni Yildirim just happened to be a stepping stone in order for a bigger fight to happen. So if you kind of know more or less what's going to happen and what's coming, give the guy a break. We got to see Canelo in action on a quick turnaround. After a long COVID layoff, he fought in December against Caleb Smith and then came back in February to stay sharp to fight Avni Yildirim. And then he's going to be back in when? May. So we're looking at, 2 months, 3 months to fight again and a quick turnaround. I'm happy, I'm excited, and I can't wait for the fight to come. So that's kind of basically it with the Canelo Alvarez fight. But just on the other news, I kind of wanted to make this a combo episode. I really, really am excited for another fight that's coming up. There's news out there that on top of the Ben Askren and Jake Paul fight, there's going to be Antonio Tarver making his comeback fight versus Frank Mir in a crossover MMA fight. So you got Ben Askren, Jake Paul, everyone knows about that. Then you also have a pretty cool fight in Tarver, who beat Roy Jones, who's been retired for a while. He's actually going to make his comeback fight against a pretty decent striker in Frank Mir. I'm not going to sit here and say that Tarver isn't light years better than Frank Mir, because I think he is. And we're going to actually get to see it happen, and I'm very, very excited about that. And I thought that would be a fight that you guys would be interested in. I think this fight's pretty box office. I think it's a fight that could potentially get a lot of clicks, a lot of views, and basically it's clear that these kind of fights are here to stay. Triller again, a new mover in the market, someone that's trying to disrupt, a company that's deep pockets, and clearly from a promotional standpoint, clicks, downloads, views, eyes, interest is their model. So it's a little different than the traditional top rank. Hey, how many seats can we get? Triller maybe just looking to get downloads, looking to get eyes on it, looking to just promote itself to make people use it more, right? The pockets are unlimited, and if you fleece the pockets, they have very, very substantially deep pockets. When I looked at it, I believe they have $250 million just from a Chinese investment company looking to put up films in China for the U.S. You got a bunch of different investors in Triller. So I think it's kind of cool that they're paying some people that are known. I mean, Antonio Tarver wasn't the biggest draw in the world, but people know him, and I think people will see the fight to see him coming back. I mean, they'll pay to see him come back. You add him, Jake Paul, it adds a little more credibility to the fight. I mean, to the card. It's entertainment, which is exactly what they're looking to do. I mean, the app literally is an entertainment app. You basically have TikTok, but with songs, movies, etc. So it's kind of interesting that they chose to put Antonio Tarver after his long layoff in the ring with Frank Mir in a crossover match. Another fight I kind of wanted to touch on was, I can't believe this might actually be a case too. Tarver, Mir is going to happen. And then evidently you have Holyfield and Mike Tyson engaging in their third trilogy match. I think that's another big fight. And I'm hearing that They might actually put that fight on the Teofimo Lopez versus George Gamboso's Triller card. Now, if you put those two fights together on one fight with all the performances and all the celebrity appearances, announcers, etc., I'm looking at a fucking mega card. I think these guys are going to make a lot of money. I think Holyfield's going to make a lot of money. I think Tyson's going to make a lot of money. Teofimo's going to make a lot of money. Everyone on this card is just going to make money because Holyfield, Tyson 3, especially with Tyson looking the way he did in that last fight against Roy Jones. And if I'm not mistaken, Holyfield did fight recently. It wasn't like a couple of years ago, but it was 3 or 4 years ago. So he is definitely less rusty than Tyson. So if Tyson could really put the work in, polish up even more what he did against Roy Jones, and then with Holyfield being the more recent active fighter, I think the fight's actually very interesting. If you put it on a card, I know they're old, but you have to give and pay homage to these guys. I mean, they've done so much for the sport. When you think of heavyweight boxing, you think of Evander Holyfield, you think of Mike Tyson. Everyone is nostalgic when it comes to these guys. The real deal Holyfield. I know everyone's used to play that game on Sega. Holyfield boxing. You had Mike Tyson, who was synonymous with crushing one-punch knockouts. The 90s and a little bit of the 2000s were devastated by Mike Tyson. So people are interested, and I think if you add him with Teofimo or whatever combination, the card is going to do well. Triller is here to make noise, and I'm glad that they're putting fighters to work, and I'm glad they're changing the game in terms of purse structure. Once you set a market, fighters realize, especially if they keep doing it, that the promoters take a lot of money. They take a lot of the lion's share, and I'm sure they put up a lot of money and they take a risk on people early in their career. When they don't bring them anything, they lose money. But once you make a certain point to kind of pay them off and kind of figure out more or less and refund them from what they put out for you, they need to work in cohesion with you. Why do they need to hit you over the head? And if Triller can provide some sort of elucidation to that fact that the promoters are sitting here and hitting fighters over the head, taking big chunks of money, taking the money that the TV deals promised them, since the fighters aren't in the rooms with the TV deals, they don't know how much they're getting paid. I mean, look at the Canelo and Golden Boy issue. Golden Boy was in talks with DAZN, and DAZN thought they were under a certain contract, and then all of a sudden it came out that, hey, Canelo wasn't getting what he wanted for fighting who he wanted. It had to be someone that DAZN approved, and there was just all this backlash and whatnot. I think fighters are being a little more privy, a little more smart, and taking a little more control of their career and taking more risks on themselves. And when you take more risks on yourself, you're going to make more money. This is the episode for today. Feel free to support the podcast on Instagram at Good Boxing Podcast. If you want to listen to the episode on IGTV, feel free to leave a comment. I'm trying to put those episodes up there. So there's just more avenues. You don't even have to leave the page to listen. Also, if you're on Spotify, feel free to leave a follow. Really helps the channel. And also, if you're on Apple, leave a review, leave a rating, etc. If you like YouTube, I'm also on YouTube at Good Boxing Podcast. And I'm really, really excited, waiting for something in the mail, and it's going to change the game in terms of the audio quality. I do have those interviews coming up too as well. Be on the lookout, but I just want to stay current. I want to keep the flow going, and the daily episodes, daily uploads is really, really fun, and I'm glad I'm able to provide this content. The channel's grown. We've doubled our followers on Instagram in the last 30 days, and I'm very, very proud of the support and DMs and all the love that I'm getting. Thank you so much. You guys really, really mean the world to me. Thank you. Have a great day.